Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for the feedback on the last video. I got a lot of good feedback on the edit. It was really nice. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep doing that throughout the series. Give me a little bit of art that I sprinkle in as we go. The first sign we're going to do is a business sign. If you head down to my description, you'll find a link to my Patreon where I provide a public free file for you to use to lay out your sign. This is going to be like our stepping stone. We're going to make our first business sign. It's going to be very simple, very direct. It's going to look a lot like a local businesses in the beginning. And then as time progresses, we'll open up to more fonts and then we'll start getting really creative. I got white oak. I'm going to cut it at 11/16 per inch. And we're going to parallel clamp them together with some tight bond. This is my joiner. What we're going to do is a couple passes on it with the oak. That way when we run it through the table saw, everything's nice and flat up against the fence. And this is my Wixey digital gauge. I'll put a link down in the description so you can get yourself one if you want one. They're great. They're good for making sure everything's level. Basically, you put it on one surface, zero it to it, and then check another one, and it'll give you a clear indication of where you're at if you're on a 90-degree reference. Okay, now that I've got a flat reference here and a flat reference here, I'm able to ride alongside the fence and get nice even cuts down the side of this. I'm going to cut it at 11/16 per inch. That's going to give me 7 sections out of these boards each. So that's 14 total. I'll take these pieces and run them in between these. That way this captures all my snipe. I can cut the ends off when we're done. So let's get after it. Alright, I'm about to set my wood through the planer. What I've done is found the crown to each piece and faced it upwards. The crown is the proud part of the middle of the board. So what you do is you take the board, you flip it over and you rock it like this. And if it rocks, you have it crowned down. Flip it over and mark it with a pencil. You want it to not rock. That way it's going to take the top middle out first. Okay, and then after that we'll flip it over and run it again because this will be flat after that. You can also see that I left my longer pieces on the outside. That's to use them up with the snipe. They're going to get sacrificed anyway, so it's no big deal. Alright, this looks really good. I don't see any pencil marks. We're going to go glue this up. Alright, the next step is to put some paste wax on our parallel clamps. This is going to stop the glue from sticking to them, so that way you can keep a nice flat surface and keep making signs. Okay, you're going to want to alternate your grain grooves if you have any. So this one is down. I have a knot here, so I'm going to face that down. Okay, and it's waving down. So the next one I'm going to try to wave up. All right, and you're going to stagger these pretty evenly to get a pretty good spread on it. There you go. That's pretty good. Like I said, I'll be going with Titebond 2 in this video. Titebond 2 is an amazing glue. It's water resistant. It's also heat resistant. It's good for interior and exterior glue ups. So if you want a good glue, go with Titebond 2. Okay, you can see I got my long panels on the outside of both my runs here. That's to accommodate for snipe. This is my project area right here. We're going to cut these off in the long run. I scraped some of the glue off, and then this one I left some of the glue on just to see how it responds to the planer. My planer is only 13.5 inches wide, so we will send it through and we'll do 2 runs on one side, and then we'll flip it, do a run, and then we'll glue it up together and get a 24-inch by 36-inch size, except for the flags here. We'll cut those off. Okay, when you get to the point to where you have 2 panels that you're ready to glue up, they're even heights, but you want to make sure you get a nice even line. What you're going to do is you're going to set down your T-square, okay? You're going to line it up with one, and you're going to slide that over and get that lined up really nice. That way you know you got all the wood you can get accounted for. Get that lined up, okay, and then go outside of your thing, and you're going to put a little mark across the 2, okay? Same thing here. You're going to double check, and you're going to go outside your mark, and you're going to put a little line there. All we got to do is line those 2 lines up, and our glue joint will be really good. Okay, we're about to glue up. You're going to see a trick here that nobody's ever probably done before. At least there's nothing that I can find a reference to. I have an overhead up here. I have these long clamps here. Got 2 of them. And I like to put a long piece of semi-hardwood, not softwood, across the gap. And I like to give it a press down after I give it a squeeze. I like to press the high side down. So this top side here is my high side. I'm going to press that down, squeeze it together, then lift it back up and move it and put it right over the seam, and then re-clamp it down. And that'll hold everything pretty solid here. I'll come back tomorrow or later today. Everything will be nice and flat. I'll have to do way less sanding because from here on I can't use my planer. Now I got to sand. You saw me do this earlier. Whenever you do a glue up, you only want to glue one board. Leave the other one clean. Okay? You want to have glue on one and then squeeze it to the other one. add some pencil marks, and we're going to get rid of that little positive groove there, and then we're going to flip it and do the same thing. We're going to sand evenly as we go too. We'll work our way out, remove the pencil marks, and then just blend it in. And this is Star Bond medium thick. What we're going to do with this is any little holes like this, we're going to come in and we're just going to fill them up. There you go. Another one right here. It may take 1 or 2 times to totally fill it up, but when we give it a sand, it'll all clean up. You take a little 2p10 and we shoot it with it. Okay, now that I cut my edges off, I went ahead and took my T-square and put a clean line all the way down the side here on both edges, and I took a piece of tape and ran it alongside of it. The tape will help with tear out. So we're gonna go cut that off. There's multiple ways to cut the ends off. One is a miter saw. You have to flip it to do the whole thing, or 2 is a track saw, or you can do a cross cut sled with a table saw. Here I'm going to try the miter saw, and other videos I'll try the other ways. One of the most important things I learned from visiting other makers is that those little blemishes, that's character, and that's what makes the piece the piece. Don't get hung up because you got a little edge or something's not amazingly perfect. Everything is fixable, so don't worry about it. We're about to cover up these edges a lot. The biggest thing is we want it really close to square. Measure diagonally and diagonally and make sure you get the same measurement. As long as that's good, we're good to keep framing. Picking wood for your frame, I like quarter sawn. The straight grain helps with the structural balance of a frame. It'll stop it from warping. You're going to want to see how proud your frame is compared to your face grain. I'm about 1/4 inch high, so that means I can take the thickness of my main back panel and about 1/4 inch extra to get the same height as this. Okay, we're going to build the frame. If we happen to go shorter with the frame, you can always plane your main face grain board down, so that way it's under. You never want to over, because it's a little bit of a weird sign. You either want to equal or lower when dealing with the lettering face. A C channel will wrap around your back panel, and an L channel, which is like a rabbit cut, will just wrap around the front side and the sides. That's what we're going to do here. That's the easier one of the two. Since this is a beginner set video, we're going to start with that. Alright, if you're like me, you'll get done and you'll see a few gaps. That's because the saws are not the greatest today unless you spend a lot of money. I get it. I don't spend a lot of money. I'll fix these little mistakes with a little bit of sanding dust and wood glue. So if you are hung up on it being perfect, you can go ahead and spend the money on that saw and that blade. But if you're not, you can use this trick. It'll seal it up really good, and it'll give you a nice clean look in the end. Okay, so let's talk about when you put a brand new blade on from Timberwolf. It has raker teeth, so each tooth goes left and right throughout the whole thing. So when you first start cutting with it, you're going to notice it wanders a lot. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to break those teeth in. Okay, the teeth are very sharp and you're going to want to take that edge off. So what you do is you start it, you get yourself like a fence or something to ride against, and you just do straight cuts and you push evenly throughout the cut, and you do it quite a few times. You want to do about 2 minutes worth of just cutting that blade really slowly, just getting it cleaned up. You know, it's recommended actually at 15 minutes, but do at least 2 to 5 minutes, I would say. After you break that tooth in, you're going to want to start cutting letters, okay? So here's a tip on how I cut straight. What you want to do is you want to, whenever you're cutting, you want to pull. So like this is my side that I'm keeping, you want to pull this way to the left, okay? And if I'm cutting on this side, you want to push from the right. And I like to use the pencil with the right hand, so it helps me push. And you're going to not be straight, you're going to kick it a little bit. And what you're looking for is a flat connection on this side, okay? A really, really good letter to describe this is the letter O. Okay? So if you take the letter O and you go like this, I'm not cutting anything, but as you roll in, it starts cutting. And then you're going to follow that. And what you're doing is I'm kind of cutting this way. I'm using the back of the blade. I'm pushing this way, and I'm creating like a nice, even cut. Okay, so I'm using only the left side of the tooth. All right, and the same thing over here. If I wanted to cut this way, you're going to push to the left. Okay, it's always this side. Now let's say I got to do an inside turn. So the piece I'm keeping is on the right. Okay, so here I'm going to start off by pushing this way around this turn, and when I get around that turn, I'm going to get to right here. Okay, now my round side is on this side. It's the piece I've cut out already. What you're going to do is you're going to start pushing from the right, and it's going to give you structure as you're going around that turn. Okay, and then when I get here, I like to do my trick where I angle it and I create the flat side. I start pushing left again and I run straight. Okay, same thing here except opposite. You're going to push left. Let's say I got to make this turn. I'm going to roll into it slowly, and I'm going to keep pushing this way. Okay, and as I'm coming in, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to ride that blade to where it's going straight. And if you start going in, all you do is kick it that way a little bit, and you'll start straightening it back out. Okay, so hopefully that gets you started on how to make straight cuts on the bandsaw. And when in doubt, just cut more. I promise. If you just keep cutting more, you're going to learn more. All right. As far as the blade goes, you want to make sure it's just sitting in front of the bearings on top and bottom. You want your blade just a little bit past halfway in the guide blocks here. I got about a 1/16 to the gullet. What I do is I put a thing of staples in this little part here, and that keeps my guide blocks nice and level. Okay, sometimes these will have a little bit of play, but you want to make sure your bearing has light coming through on the bottom side of it there, so you can see my finger behind it, because you want this to be able to spin. If you ever got a flat spot here or like a gouge, your bearings froze up. Okay, take it off, clean it, turn it around, and put it where you don't have that gouge facing it, or buy new bearings. Okay, and then the next thing is you want to make sure you're not touching. You want to make sure you're just off of this bearing, just a touch. Okay, your guide blocks are pretty tight on the teeth, but you want to make sure if you push, you don't get any movement going back. Everything's nice and flat, but you don't want it so the bearing is pushing on it, because now you're creating, if you do that, you're creating a pivot point. Okay, so if the bearing is pushing too much forward, the blade's going to naturally want to wiggle like this. What you're doing is you're doing high tension on the gullet of the blade. Okay, and you want the gullet in the center, the bottom of the gullet to be in the center of the wheel. Okay, that way you're putting tension on the front of the blade here. Okay, and then what you do is you grab the back of the blade, and that stops it from wiggling. Okay, I mean, my blade is pretty, it's got wiggle if I really want to wiggle it, but that's what that side tension's about. You're trying to control that wiggle. Okay, if you have a clean faceplate too, it helps. Mine's not so clean, but I'm used to cutting on it. Okay, you can always put a zero clearance in it. It'll take some of that wiggle out. All right, and then remember, your teeth, it's sticking out like a 1/16 of an inch past the blade, the edge of the gullet. So hopefully these tips help you. And I leave my guide high. I do that for multiple reasons. One is I'm filming, and I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. The other is I'm used to it. Like I said, I'm used to being able to control the blade. Cutting more and more is what's going to get you experience on where to go with the blade. So when you first start cutting, if you're just pushing straight into it, it might wiggle because these teeth are sharp on the sides. The other thing I'll do is I'll take 2 pieces of wood, I'll put them here and here, and I'll sandwich it as I drag the blade out. It'll sand the edges of the teeth. It'll help break in those edges. That way the blade isn't side cutting as much. And then what you do is you repeat that until you get a nice, good, clean cut. Now this is only 1/8 inch blades you should be doing this with. Any other blades, I wouldn't worry about it. This is for scroll cutting only. All right, now that we got that done, I'm gonna hit them with some acetone. We're gonna peel the skins back off of them, and we're gonna sand it with 400 grit sandpaper on the face. We'll blow it off, we'll wipe them down with some water, and if we can't get into the cracks, we're gonna use a little bit of denatured alcohol in there. That'll raise the grain. We're gonna go back in and sand it with 400 grit one last time, and that'll give us a nice solid letter. After that, we're gonna start assembling the sign. Okay, when you're ready, you're going to want to get everything by you. You're going to want some weights. And for this side, I'm going to use 2-part 5-minute epoxy. I like to tape mine together. I learned that from Jimmy, and I like to mix it with bamboo skewers. I also like to keep some 2P10 super glue by me. It's cyanoacrylate glue. That way I can put a couple dots around it too, and it'll help solidify it up. I like to keep a little bit of scrap wood. That way I can mix up my epoxy on it. And I like to keep a couple pieces of flat milled up wood. That way I can put it across the whole thing when I put the weights on it. That way the weights don't damage the actual face of the letter. You'll also notice I put a ruler across the top of it. That ruler is to give me a structure for the top, and it allowed me to put pencil marks on it. You can see the K and the N is in the way of the ruler. I'll have to take the ruler out to glue those ones down. But because I put tape around the bottom side of everything, you can get a clear idea of where everything's going to be glued up. then went into Fusion 360 and designed 2 archways to follow with the other lettering. This is the X1C making it. Alright, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to wipe the whole thing down with some acetone. Get it nice and clean. We're going to get ready to paint. You're going to want to pick a finish. I'm using Total Boat Halcyon. You're going to need a mixing setup. I'll be using distilled water. You're going to need a painter's mask. You're going to need a compressor. I'll be using an HVLP gun here. You're going to want a thermometer to make sure the temperature is right for your finish. And at the gun end, you're going to want an oil and water separator, a disposable desiccant filter, and a disposable moisture filter. Put them on in that order. All right, let's finish our business sign.